In this session, we want to talk about operations management. Now, this is one class in a whole series of classes on this topic, and you should really look over the other classes and preferably look over them in sequence to get a fuller picture of what's meant by operations management and also to understand its importance. So, with that in mind, let's deal with the importance of the operations management. There are three major business functions: marketing, finance, and operations. You could argue there are many functions to business, but these three seem to be singled out in many parts of the literature as particularly important. But we could include HRM, research and development. We could include many other functions as important as well. I suppose really it depends on the nature of the business we're discussing. Business need to know the best way to produce goods and services. It's not good enough simply to say the business will produce certain goods and services. It is necessary to know what is the best way to produce the goods and services. And it's also important to understand the roles and the responsibilities of the operations managers, because it is these managers who will ultimately see through the projects, the orders from the customers, right through from start to finish. They will control the operations of the business, and it's important for them to ensure that they do it efficiently and to good quality standards. Now, topics and activities in operations management. Well, the topics, we can just simply make a list of these, but the topics could be managing purchases, informing the buying section as to what is required, what raw materials, what components, what machines, what people, managing purchases, managing resources. Inventory control, keeping an eye on the stocks in the stores and the usage rates, and trying to replenish them in a way that minimizes the cost of stock holding, but at the same time keeps production flowing. Quality, as I said earlier, is crucially important. If the quality is bad, the customers will leave. The customers will not make return purchases. So it's important that the management oversees quality and makes sure the quality is of good standard. The storage itself, making sure the stores are organized and that they're logical. It's easy to put orders away when they're received. For example, when goods inwards are received, they can be stored away efficiently. And also, when orders are received and goods need to be taken out of stock, they can be found easily, and there's a good booking system to ensure that information about the stores is properly controlled. Making sure the goods can be delivered at the end, that there is transport or packaging or whatever is required, that the goods can efficiently be dispatched to the consumer. And trying to evaluate the whole system, critically looking at the system for improvements all the time, looking at each component in the production process to see if it can be improved. There are significant overlaps in these areas, for example, inventory control and storage, but it's worth at the same time singling them out because they are slightly different areas and they're important areas. Controlling the stocks, inventory control, and the actual storage, the physical layout of the store, and the way the store integrates into the production process need to be considered perhaps separately. They are big topics. Now, the nature and process of operations management. Well, operations management requires significant measurement and analysis of internal processes. It's concerned with the efficiency and effectiveness of processes. Well, the only way you can measure efficiency or gauge the effectiveness of a process is to have measurement, to try and capture what is it that the process is doing, how efficient is the process, what's the wastage, What can go wrong? What are the inefficiencies? The type and style of operations management depends on the nature of the products or services being produced. It must be clear that operations will vary from one company to the next depending on the nature of the product, the nature of the service that's being provided. So the management within organizations will have to be, in a sense, acculturated. They'll have to be trained in the management of that business, the processes of the business, and gain an expertise in learning by doing. And that's why this sort of management is so important. And it's also important that they are retained by the business because they have expert knowledge and greater understanding of the processes within the business. Now, the functions of operations managers. Well, again, we can create a list. The functions would be to plan production, plan the layout of the plant, plan the sequencing of production, to organize it, to make sure that it makes sense, it's logical, and it's efficient, and it flows smoothly through the system. Making sure the staff are there. It's not just a question of focusing in on the capital, on the machines and the raw materials, but nothing happens if the staff are not available, and the staff should be of the right quality themselves. The staff should be adequately trained and motivated. The operations managers should lead. They should show the staff how it's done. They should understand the processes. They should be able to support the workers and the line managers in issues that confront them. If a machine stops, or if they're dealing with bad quality raw material, the operations manager should be able to get involved and help out and find solutions. They should be able to control the process, making sure that from start to finish the whole thing is under control. It's not out of control. It's not going to have a life of its own. So the production process should be in control all the time, and the operations manager should know where the jobs have got to, what's involved, what's going on, and be able to rectify any issues that are leading to inefficiencies or leading to problems in the production system. So a few words about planning. Well, planning deals with the popular questions. For example, who, what, when, where and how. Well, that's what planning deals with. Who's going to do it? What's going to be done? When will it be done? Where will it be done? And how will we do it? Who is responsible for the efficient management of the production system? So who exactly is in charge? Who's looking after particular jobs? When a number of orders arrive on the shop floor, who takes responsibility for each of them? Who sees that the orders are going through and will be completed on time? And who are responsible for the subsystems? There's an overall system perhaps within the company. There's a sequence of machines, a sequence of processes and so on, but there are subsystems within that. So for example, the stores could be a subsystem of the overall production system. So who's responsible for the subsystems? What processes should be carried out? And what are the goals and objectives of the business? So what processes in this context means what efficient processes should be carried out? How should orders be dealt with? How should orders be produced and met efficiently? And when should the goals and objectives be met? Is the schedule realistic and achievable? It's very important that the customers who place the orders understand that the time scale will be whatever is required to take it. Rushing the job may lead to a deterioration in quality. So it's important that the goals and objectives are clearly set out and met. And where should the production take place? Where should the product be produced? Well, if the company is large, there might be different routes for the product to follow. And this might require critical path analysis, for example, or PERT, to try and work out the most efficient route. So the job starts on machine 1, moves to machine 5, because that's the most efficient way. And then it moves to machine 6, machine 9, and then it's parceled up and sent out. So it doesn't mean the numbering system should be adhered to. It depends critically on what is the best for that particular job. It doesn't have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the machines in that sequence. But the operations manager is best placed to make the decision as to which way, which route orders should take through the production system. And how should the production be organized? And what technology should be deployed? Some machines are very elaborate and capable of doing many things, but they're also perhaps not significantly or appreciably used. They're not. The functions of the machine are not going to be exploited fully within that business. So why buy an expensive machine? Look for appropriate machines for the jobs that the business follows and the jobs that the business takes on. So looking for a very elaborate machine may not be the right solution. So how should it be produced? What technology should it deploy? And that should be done sensibly. The technology should suit the work and the workload and the complexity of the jobs that are taken on. Planning is really looking into the future. Planning is trying to imagine what requirements there will be in the future. What requirements on the production system or on the store system or in the office system. Trying to look forward to try and plan capacity that will be there if there is a surge in orders, if there is a large increase in orders. There are two types of plans. There's the operational plans. These normally have a short planning horizon and also a considerable amount of detail. They're operational. This is what will happen on a day-to-day basis. This is how we will deal with orders when they come in. So it's looking at very short term and very considerable detail. When the orders arrive, they will go through this part, they'll be processed by that machine, they will involve this, they will involve that. They're very detailed. Operational plans are detailed. Those are opposed to strategic plans. These have a very long planning horizon and very few details. Strategic plans are looking into the future. So next year we will buy this machine, and next year we will move production in such a way that, and next year we will. These are strategic plans looking forward, and because they're looking forward, they don't contain a lot of detail. They are almost aspirational. This is what we want to do in the future. Analysis, well, this is the process of extracting the facts in a useful format from unstructured data. The company produces products, let's say. Well, a byproduct of producing the products is that it will produce a lot of data. The data is the time it takes to complete the job, the wastage in terms of raw material not used, the breakdowns in the machines, the absenteeism amongst the workforce for whatever reason. It'll produce a lot of facts. Well, analysing that data produces a more structured overview of what's happening in the business. That's the analysis. The analysis is looking into the facts, trying to understand the facts, what's happening. The data may be confusing for a variety of reasons. It also may be in large quantities, and we can't take in a lot of large lots of data. So what we want is an oversight. What's the trend? What's the pattern? What happened? Why did the production peak at one stage and why did it drop to zero at another? So what's the analysis? Why did it happen? And that's really what analysis is doing. It's answering the why questions. So the analysis yields insights into and support for business decision making. Business decision making must be based on something. And what it's based on is the analysis of facts. Facts about the number of orders received, the seasonality of the orders received, the way production was structured, breakdowns of machines, and so on. So it's that analysis that leads to better business decision making. Finally, analysis shows how successful or not the decision making has been. If poor decisions have been made, then the data will pick that up, and the analysis of the data will show that poor decisions were made in the past. So it's a way of checking the quality of the decision making also. Organizing. Well, organizing means the development of efficient routines and practices within the business. Production is organized. If it's not organized, it's chaotic. Well, chaos means it's almost random, it's haphazard, whereas organizing means efficient routines and practices within the business. Good organizing practice involves finding the right information and organizing it in the right format. So, good organization depends on good information, and then working on the good information and the analysis of that information, well, further analysis. So we start with the data, we analyze it into information, and we constantly process that information to try and squeeze the last bit of insight out of it. So having got the right information, it's then a question of organizing it in the right format. And then finding the right people to perform the function, or the right person to perform the function. It's necessary to initiate the process and get it started based on the analysis, based on the information, and based on the efficient routines that have been determined as the best way forward. Develop a feasible schedule and deliver the product or the project according to the schedule. It's always best to have a plan, have a schedule, a Gantt chart almost. The project starts on this day, it finishes on that day, it'll go through the following machines, it'll arrive at this machine at this time on that day, it'll be processed for 4 hours, it'll go to the next machine, and make these realistic. Don't just invent the data. Don't say it'll go to a certain machine for 4 hours, because it might be needed for 6 hours. It might be needed for 2 days. So make sure the information is as accurate as possible. Now, directing and implementing. Well, directing and implementing relates to putting plans into action. It's implementing, it's putting the plan into action. Having developed the plan, it's necessary to implement it. That means, of course, explaining it to the relevant people, to the line managers, to the workers and so on, and making sure everyone understands what the plan is, and the plan is reasonable, the plan is feasible, it can be done. It's necessary to sort out problems and inconsistencies, to make sure that it is realistic and it's seen by the people who are going to implement it as realistic. There should be good design and layout. The plan should be carefully worked. Perhaps it should be dry run, if possible. it should be tested before it's actually implemented, if that is possible. There might be HRM issues. People need training. They need to know why they're doing what they're up to. They need to know why the process has changed, and if it's complex, they need training and they need support. And there needs to be a budgetary control. And by that, I mean plans need to be costed. It's simply not good enough to devise a plan and implement it. But the plan may be too expensive. It may entail a lot of expense that that simply can't be afforded by the business, or will eat significantly into the profits of the business. And there needs to be careful consideration of the technology and investment implications in any implementation of a plan. The technology and the investment ideally should match what's in the business. It should be a more advanced form because technology improves over time, but as far as possible, if a new machine is bought in, it should be capable of receiving output from previous machines or machines further back in the production process, and it should be capable of producing products that can be further refined on existing machines elsewhere in the plant. It should not be a machine which does its own thing and then the product is stuck. So it's necessary that the technology is integrated, that there is a coherence right throughout the system, which will lead to the efficiency. Having said that, we know that technology improves over time, and there will be improvements to machines over time. But despite that, there should be integration. And there should also be quality procedures. It's essential that in any implementation of any plan, that quality is central. If the quality of the product is bad, it will be detrimental to the image of the business and to the long-term viability of the business. So the quality procedures must be robust, and they must be right throughout the whole production process. Each part should be tested for quality. The workers should be trained, and they should recognize practices which lead to quality and practices that don't. So these are some of the issues when looking at operations management. This is the idea of developing plans and taking responsibility for the whole production system. It's one session amongst several, as I said before, and it's important for you to look at the others as well. But that's all I'm going to deal with in this session. I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.